Haidong! In this video, we're going to talk about killing momentum. I'm aware that I get excited about very specific things, and this is one of those, right? So I guess a little bit of context for this kind of video. So I've been playing with the idea of using different weapons, depending on, again, the type of form, what inspired that form originally, and kind of seeing like maybe like the etymology, I guess etymology is specifically words, but like the background and kind of like the development of forms specifically. This video does not require you to know forms, so don't be afraid, but that's kind of like where I was coming up with this idea, right? So obviously I'm not like unique in this, right? Just so you kind of know from my specific background, which is in, again, Haidong Gumdo, which, you know, as you might know from my introduction every single time. But there's an idea of something called the Sangsu forms, Sangsu meaning two-handed. There is something also called the Sangsu gum, which is a very long, heavy weapon. So my personal theory is that that style was developed around that sword. And then once we started using not a very, very long great sword, again, great sword is kind of like a fake, you know, term, but a long, long sword, when we stopped using that for that style and started using something more standard like this, then we started introducing moves that were more unique and more applicable to swords like this. So for example, like giant center cuts, not likely if you have a very, very long sword, we're just going to be like, smash this way. Most likely you'll be using like diagonal cuts and kind of getting ready for next strikes, like so. But at least that's kind of like where I'm coming from there. Additionally, this video was inspired by watching a HEMA person using one of those very long swords. I wasn't sure if the person I saw was from that school or whatever it was, so I'm going to try to find where that source is and put it down in doobly-doo, just so you have that information as well. But that also brings into another idea, right? Where like a sword is a sword, right? Mechanics that you learn from one sword can apply to other swords as well, so long as you understand why that mechanic exists. And the mechanic I'm thinking about specifically is the mass and like distribution of that mass of a weapon. So in this case, a sword. So for example, the momentum or the distribution of a European greatsword or a claymore or something like that, relatively, and this is not true overall, but relatively speaking is similar to a very long sword like the Sangsu gum or the Odachi, for example. But that was a lot of words. Let's actually start talking about this, right? So why do we need to kill momentum, right? So usually that doesn't really matter for swords like this or swords much smaller or anything like that, because they have smaller mass and they usually don't have that much momentum to impart. But if you start swinging around a big honking piece of steel, you sort of need to know how to maintain and kill that momentum. The main reason you want to, there's going to be a few main reasons, right? One main reason is your own safety. Right? If I'm using a very large, very heavy weapon and I don't know how to stop it, that's only going to, it's not only going to happen, but it is very likely I'm going to hurt myself, right? I might still be able to hurt the other person if they're trying to be, murdery with me. But the idea of that is for you to safely, again, burn off whatever that momentum is. Additionally, being able to learn how to manipulate and, again, burn off the momentum will let you also be more effective at using that weapon overall, right? So being able to, again, turn one cut into another cut, again, using your hips, using your core and all that fun stuff, is going to be able to help you be more fluid, more dynamic, and just in general have better control of that weapon. So arbitrarily, I'm going to say there are at least two ways for you to do that. So one of them is going to be through an actual sword technique, right? The other is going to be using the actual body mechanics around that sword. So let's first talk about how to burn that momentum using the sword. So first I want to show you a combination in one of my forms. You don't need to, again, know this form at all, but if you are coming from this from a Gumdo perspective, this is number 12, so Sangsu 12. So this form is kind of famous for its just confusion all around. It is actually one of my favorites, which kind of makes me weird. But again, the idea with this particular form, and this form more than anything else, is that it's insinuating that you're using a heavier weapon. So again, if you look at older sources, they depict someone using a very long sword. So, but anyway, the idea of this is, let's just have a classic center cut, right? Again, would you do this with a long sword? Probably not. This could also have been a stab or kind of rebounding, so it's kind of a neutral position here. So right now, like, there is no momentum to the sword. The sword is very neutral. It has no inertia yet. So what I can do, right, is use my Wii muscles to pull it back and throw again, right? You can do that, we do that, but there are more effective ways, right? So as opposed to using Wii muscles, use like your whole body to do so. So this is actually going to be moving into a little bit in the second area where you're using your body to both kill and generate momentum. I'm going to actually start over here for a reason. So from here, instead of, again, trying to cock it back with, again, my wrist, my elbows, my shoulders, even like my pectorals kind of pull it back, what I'm going to do is actually just spin around it. Now, yes, this also looks pretty, etc., blah, 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 but if someone's in front of me and I need to like get a nice powerful swing, all I'm going to do is spin into it, kind of follow through with a bigger cut, right? So again, so I can be here. I can also be here, which is again is a very neutral guard for this because it's not moving. I can be from here, again, neutral guard, not moving, wherever we want to be. So from here again, trying to smash you, I'm going to spin into it, smash, and then do something. So let's figure out how we can burn that extra momentum. So again, don't do what I just did because there's a reason why we don't do that in the form, because you're going to tear out your shoulder. So one way of doing that is with a sword maneuver, right? So it's going to look very, very silly, but I'm going to dial that back so it's a little more applicable to like normal sword usage. So in our form, we're here, we spin through, we smash. We're actually going to use the momentum here. We're going to more or less keep our body relatively neutral. We are going to step forward with it, but we're going to use the sword itself, kind of do a nice one of these guys. This is also true. This is also one reason why people will train with figure eights and stuff like that when you're doing a soft weapon like a nunchuck or a chain whip, is because those figure eights are good ways to kind of regain control. This is the same thing, right? So from here, spin through, smash, and up. Notice the very act of that crosscut moving into here is going to give you that, again, lowered momentum for you to kind of keep moving with the form. So the reason why we're still going to be here is I still, again, assuming the sword is much longer, I can still kind of aim that tip where I need it to be. Let's kind of see that a few more times, right? So from here, no momentum, spin in, smash through, up. Not too bad, right? So, but there are other ways of doing that, right? So I don't expect you every time to move into this specific guard because it's not the best, right? But it is one way for you to get, to a position of safety. I mentioned one reason that you want to do this is to also have the ability to have fluidity and be able to move into another cut. That previous example didn't really do that, right? It kind of got us into a position where I wasn't like here, like ready to embrace death. I was kind of like in a position where if I needed to, like I can stop a sword coming down, but my hands are here, right? They're viable targets. This is not really a good position overall. However, a more common way, and I'm actually going to be modifying Form 2 for this, but again, you don't need to know background. All we're going to do is from here, again, building a little bit of momentum with that kind of motion, right? All I'm going to do is around here, cut, and then just use my hip to shoulder. Not too bad, right? Again, from here, cut up, right? And you kind of keep moving with this as well, right? So if I want to, I can cut up. I'm going to try to stay in frame, cut up. Make sense? So the idea of this is I want to have most of my momentum imparting into the target. That's the point of cutting, right? But then I want to have my hip kind of absorb the momentum as I just kind of shoulder the blade like so. And you can do that with a lot of different things. So for example, in that same form that I was talking about, we actually use this guy, we use this guy, all to kill momentum. Can I give you a few examples, right? So for example, if we just do a big honking diagonal cut, right? Obviously we can't just do what we did before and just do this, because then we have a lot of upward momentum as well. But again, just using the momentum of the sword to kind of, again, kill its natural momentum. So we even have a giant cut here. All I want to do is just keep the sword moving, keep my body moving, and just let gravity absorb momentum as you're coming up. In the same way, if you're kind of speeding up as you're going down a hill, assuming you're driving or like using a bike or something like that, if you just stay neutral as you're going uphill, you're going to naturally slow down, right? That's just how gravity is going to help you. So doing that a little more quickly, right? Big old powerful cut, up here. That's it, right? I can do the same thing also with, like for example, if I'm cutting a big old cross cut here, again, assuming you have a little bit of momentum behind it, here, up. Same thing. So that is one way for you to kind of kill that momentum. I want you to be aware of whenever you do go through, for example, a form or a flow, however you practice your sword, see how you manage that momentum. The other way is also a lot of fun, right? I was already doing it sort of with our movement, although the focus was mostly on the sword motion, for your body, right? So the combination that I like the most, again, because that's my background, is from Form 11, Sangsu 11. So the idea of this is I see someone here, and I'm just going to try to smash with a lower reverse side block this way. If I were to use just the sheer force of it, I'm going to be kind of SOL, right? If I'm here, I'm just going to like smash. I'm going to be like way up here. If I want to, I can kind of do what a practice HEMA person would do. You just kind of bring it up and kind of like use your stance to kind of absorb it. However, if I have a lot of momentum going upward, it's a little bit harder to do that, right? However, this is kind of like the clever way that that Gumdo kind of absorbs that momentum, is that extra step. It's going to look a little kind of like, what? But let's do it, right? So the idea of this is I'm coming in, again, I'm trying to get as much power as I can with that back of the sword, and I'm just going to let my back foot just kind of drag up. Kind of help, again, kill off that momentum. Because someone's close range, I can't really necessarily do too much flourishes with my sword per se. So the idea of this is I'm going to advance. Again, notice I'm going to gain momentum by stepping with the motion. Going to gain momentum as I come in. Smash up here. That's it. Again, a little bit anticlimactic, right? But that is, again, an over-exaggeration of how to, again, burn off that extra momentum. Again, having nice power here, just going to let that back foot come in here. That's it. So again, that's an over-exaggeration. It's not the best way if you're actually in combat with someone, because that's a very, very long lull for someone to kind of see you doing, and they'll probably try to counter you probably effectively, right? But there is another way. Full disclosure, from my own experience, this doesn't work as well with longer, heavier weapons, but with something like this, again, this is steel, right? So it still has a weight to it, right? This is going to be using your back leg as the way to actually burn that off, right? So there's a stance that Gumdosa use that is very weird for a lot of people. So it's this guy, right? The idea of it is you bring your front leading foot in with the initial momentum of the impact. You're going to bring your back foot in to kind of help draw through, or actually help with that initial impact. So it kind of depends on the timing and how you use the guard. Let me just do something like this, right? So let's use that same thing here. I'm still trying to smash up because I really like that move, and it is kind of a little on the flashier side, right? So if I'm here, I'm smashing my sword up, I do want to tackle or kind of like pursue that person, I'm going to step forward with it, right? All I'm going to do is smash up, right? I'm going to follow through with a cross cut. Now, if I just do a long stance or just a normal stance this way, I'm going to be kind of like, right? Because of just the forward momentum, I'm trying to stop it with just one foot. It's going to be a little bit hard. Versus, notice the difference. So if we're here, smash up, right? Smash up, prepare for that cut, and as I'm cutting that motion forward, my back foot's going to come in with that cut. I'm going to be far more stable. So I see that combination a little bit more at speed. So 1, 2, very stable. So that is another way for you to kind of control momentum, is just by the way you step. Not an epiphany per se, but that is a major way. Just kind of, even if you do something small like this, it's going to be enough to kind of, again, regain control and have some fun. But that's the idea, right? So again, you can kind of maintain and control momentum, both with just how you can kind of move specifically with your hips, kind of get a little more control with your sword, how to use your body to actually help, again, burn off that momentum, whether it's kind of like a slow burn, like this guy, or if it's like a fast burn, like this guy, kind of like forcing that back foot in order to kind of forcibly like put on the brakes on the momentum. But what I'd like for you to do is actually be aware of these small things going on in whatever your flow is. Whether that's HEMA, whether that's Iaido or Kendo, or again, if that's coming from my background of Gumdo, try all of these things and kind of see where they apply. But with that, make sure you stay safe, stay humble, and keep training. Haidong.